Let's start with something you've probably felt, but never really thought about deeply. Have you ever noticed that humans are the only creatures on this planet that ask, "Why am I here?" A dog doesn't wonder about its purpose. A bird doesn't lie awake at night thinking about what happens after it dies. But every human being, in every culture, at some point in their life, asks these exact questions. Where evolution explains why we need food, shelter, and reproduction, it doesn't really explain why we need meaning. A hungry man eats, and the hunger goes away. But when a man feels a hunger for purpose, nothing on earth fully satisfies it. Some people have called this a kind of built-in ache, a sense that we were made for something bigger than eating, sleeping, and dying. And here's the interesting part. In a purely physical universe with no design behind it, why would evolution bother installing a craving that nothing in nature can ever fully satisfy? Every other desire we have, thirst, hunger, tiredness, has something in the real world that matches it and fixes it. But this desire for ultimate meaning doesn't get satisfied by money, fame, relationships, or pleasure. People who have all four still ask, is this it? That mismatch is strange if we are simply biological accidents with no bigger picture behind us. Now let's talk about your ability to reason at all. This one gets skipped a lot, but it's actually one of the strongest points out there. If your brain is purely the product of unguided evolution, then it wasn't designed to find truth. It was shaped only to help you survive and pass on genes. Evolution doesn't care if your beliefs are true. It only cares if your beliefs help you live long enough to reproduce. A caveman who believed a rustling bush was always a lion, even when it wasn't, would survive better than a caveman who calmly investigated the truth. So natural selection rewards useful beliefs, not necessarily accurate ones. Which means if your mind was shaped purely by blind evolutionary pressure, you actually have no solid reason to trust that your reasoning about anything, including this very argument, is reliable. This creates a strange trap for pure materialism, because the same science used to argue against God depends entirely on human reasoning being trustworthy in the first place. But if reasoning itself grew out of a process that only cares about survival and not truth, then trusting your own logic becomes a leap of faith too. Let's move to something a bit more concrete. DNA. Inside every cell in your body is a molecule that stores instructions. Real, actual coded information, written in a language using 4 chemical letters, A, T, C, G, arranged in specific sequences that tell your body exactly how to build proteins, organs, eyes, a beating heart. In every other area of life, when we find coded, organized information, a book, a computer program, a text message, we automatically know it came from a mind. Nobody assumes a novel wrote itself by random chance. Yet somehow, the most sophisticated coding system known to humanity, one so advanced our own scientists are still trying to fully decode it, is often explained as the result of random chemical accidents, with no intelligence behind it at all. Even Bill Gates once said human DNA is like a computer program, but far more advanced than anything we've ever created. If a computer programmer needs a programmer, it's at least worth asking honestly whether the most complex program in existence needed one too. Here's another angle. Nearly every ancient culture across the world, separated by oceans and mountains in thousands of years, has a flood story. Mesopotamia, the Hebrews, India, China, the Aztecs, Native American tribes, Aboriginal Australians. Different characters, different names, but the same core structure keeps showing up. A great flood sent as judgment. One family or a small group saved through a boat or a similar method. And humanity starting over. Geologists have also found flood layers and marine fossils on mountains and inland areas across multiple continents. None of this proves one specific flood story is true word for word. But it raises a fair question. Why would so many disconnected societies preserve the same core memory if there was nothing real behind it at all? Now think about beauty for a second. Real beauty. The kind that stops you in your tracks. A sunset over the ocean. A newborn baby's face. A perfect piece of music that gives you chills. From a pure survival standpoint, none of this needed to exist. A sunset doesn't help you find food. A symphony doesn't help you avoid predators. Evolution only needed the world to be functional, not beautiful. Yet the universe didn't just give us a functional world, it gave us an overwhelmingly beautiful one, layered with color, music, symmetry, and awe that goes far beyond what pure survival requires. Many scientists and mathematicians have also pointed out that the universe runs on elegant, almost artistic mathematical patterns, order that didn't need to be elegant to work, but is elegant anyway. Let's also bring up something uncomfortable but important: the track record of enforced atheism at a national level. In the 20th century, several governments actively tried to remove religion completely and build a strictly atheistic society. Stalin's Soviet Union, Mao's China, Pol Pot's Cambodia. These weren't just societies that happened to lack religion. They were regimes that specifically tried to erase it. And rather than producing peaceful, purely rational utopias, these same regimes are responsible for some of the highest death tolls in human history. This isn't an argument that atheists personally are immoral. Most atheists are kind, thoughtful people. But it does raise a fair historical question. If religion is simply a tool of oppression invented to control people, why did some of the most oppressive and deadly regimes in history work so hard to eliminate it first? One more thing worth sitting with: why does almost every human culture, even ones with completely different gods and rituals, still treat certain things as sacred? Birth, death, marriage, ancient burial sites. Even people who claim no religious belief at all often still feel a strange sense of reverence at a funeral, or awe at the birth of a child. Something that feels bigger than biology, even if they can't explain it. That instinct toward reverence shows up so consistently across humanity that it starts to look less like an invented social tool and more like something built into us from the start. None of this is meant to hand you a final answer. It's meant to hand you real questions worth chewing on. Look into the evolutionary argument against naturalism yourself. Look into DNA as a coding system yourself. Read about flood traditions across different continents yourself. The goal here isn't to tell you what to believe. It's simply to show you that the case for design is a lot more serious and a lot more interesting than most people give it credit for.